Welcome everyone to our Resiliency Dialogues workshop. This is the first in a series of workshops that we are organizing to respond to our community's needs for more information and strategies to deal with the different kinds of discrimination, barriers, and racism that they've been experiencing much more in a more exacerbated way since the beginning of the pandemic. So starting this series, we want to first really welcome our special guest from the Chinese and Southeast Asian Legal Clinic, Victoria and Ariel, who would be talking to us about the latest updates about the Canada Recovery Benefits Plan. But before we do that, we wanted to first do our acknowledgement of the land. So we would want to introduce our host, the other host for the evening, Rain, to do that. There's an English slide and a Chinese slide.
So we are obviously on traditional territories of the indigenous people so we want to pay our gratitude and respect to our team to acknowledge that we are on sacred land that is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Toronto is the Dish with One Spoon territory, which is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississauga, and Haudenosaunee that bounds them to share this territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and people, Europeans and all newcomers, have also been invited to this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. We are mindful of the ongoing impacts of colonialism, racism, and other forms of social injustice that disproportionately impacts Indigenous people, racialized communities in Canada and elsewhere here. We stand in solidarity to continue our fight against anti-Indigenous, anti-Black, anti-Asian, and all the forms of racism and social oppressions locally as well as globally.
Thanks, Rain. So we would like now to proceed with our session. We would want to first introduce Victoria Wen, who's a staff lawyer from the Chinese and Southeast Asian Legal Clinic. Victoria will be doing the presentation in English, and then at 7 o'clock, Ariel will be doing the presentation in Mandarin, right? Thank you so much. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll get started. Okay, so today I'm giving a presentation, a workshop about the new temporary changes for employment insurance and about the Canada Recovery Benefits. And these are two changes following the Canada Emergency Response Benefit that ran from March to September of this year. As you may know, I am part of the Chinese and Southeast Asian Legal Clinic. We are a specialty community legal clinic serving low-income, non-English speaking clients in Ontario who are part of one of our client communities, Chinese, Vietnamese, Laotian, and Cambodian. We are a nonprofit and are independent from the government. If you want more information about us, feel free to check out our website at csalc.ca. Just as a disclaimer, all the information that we're sharing today can change, and the law does change frequently. If you have any questions, especially specifically for your own situation, please call our clinic or take a look at our website for any updates. So today I'm talking about two changes. First is about employment insurance, or EI. The second is for people who are not eligible for EI. They may be eligible for one of these three new benefits. Altogether, they're called the Canada Recovery Benefits, and I'll go into some more detail later on. And I have some scenarios as well, so we'll keep in mind the time, and then I will see if we're able to talk about them. So the Canada Emergency Response Benefit was available from March 15 to September 26 of this year. In August 20th, the federal government announced that there will be changes from the emergency stage of the COVID-19 pandemic to a transitional stage for recovery. And the federal government had made some new temporary changes to employment insurance in hopes to assist more workers to be able to obtain EI, especially those who did not meet EI qualifications in the past. In addition, the government introduced 3 new economic recovery benefits that I will go into some detail. Okay, so first about employment insurance. This will include employment insurance regular benefit and special benefit. Normally, outside of COVID-19, to qualify for EI regular benefits, you have to be a worker who contributed in an insurable employment and contributed EI premium. You have to have lost your job through no fault of your own, and you have to have been out of work and without income for 7 consecutive days in the past 52 weeks. I'll talk more about what qualifying period means in the next slide. You as well have to show that you were working during the qualifying period or since the start of your last EI claim. You still have to show that you're able to work and willing to work, and that you're actively looking for work. So those have not changed, but there have been some additional changes that I will go into. So under normal circumstances, to qualify for regular EI, the worker needs to have worked 420 to 700 insurable hours, and the amount of hours to qualify will depend on what region of Canada that you're living in. For special EI, workers will need to qualify and have 600 insurable hours. And the qualifying period normally is considered 52 weeks before you apply, or the first day of the last EI claim, if your EI claim happened to be within the past 52 weeks, which is 1 year. Under the new EI policy, and this policy started September 27th of this year, there are several changes, and these changes will be in place for 1 year. Regardless of the unemployment rate in the region, Canada will now consider that workers can qualify for EI benefits if they have 420 insurable hours. So this is now the number that you should be looking at, 420, if you're looking to qualify for EI regular benefits. For EI special benefits, they will still need to reach the 600 insurable hours. But what has changed is what we're calling the one-time insurable hour credit. And what this means is that for one time between September 27th of this year to September 25th of 2021, a worker can be eligible for a credit of 300 insurable hours if they're applying for EI regular benefit, or 480 hours if they're applying for EI special benefit. And special benefit will include sickness, maternity, parental, compassionate care, and family caregiver. What this means is that in total, the worker only needs to have accumulated at least 120 insurable hours. Under the new policy, the benefits are still available for at least 26 weeks and up to 45 weeks. And the amount will be $500. I'm sorry, 1 second. Per week or more. And so the amount that a worker will receive for regular EI under the new policy will still be determined by the amount of personal contribution that the worker has made and the length of time. For extended parental benefits, there is a new temporary benefit of at least $300 a week. So for workers who are receiving the CERB, the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, we're now in November 5th, so they will have usually already transitioned. So if you were receiving CERB, you would have been receiving it either through Service Canada or CRA. If you're receiving through Service Canada, it would have been automatically transferred to EI regular benefit. and you have to continue the EI reporting every 2 weeks, just as you have done during this year. Some workers may have received an email or a notification from Service Canada that they either had to directly apply for EI or that they were not eligible for EI. And then if you were receiving CRB through Canada Revenue Agency, CRA, then you have to directly apply for EI through Service Canada. The amount of time for the 120 insurable hours will still be looking within 52 weeks, but they will consider the 52 weeks on top of whenever you started receiving CRB. So that could be from March 2019 or sometime later if you received CRB, not starting on March 2020. Okay, if you were not receiving CRB, you may still be eligible for EI. Take a look if you have accumulated at least 120 insurable hours and meet other requirements for EI. If you did not accumulate 120 insurable hours during the qualifying period, then you would not be eligible for EI. Again, the qualifying period, if you were not receiving CRB, is directly looking at the date September 27th or whenever you apply, and going back 52 weeks, so 1 year. However, for special EI benefits, and these only include maternity, parental, compassionate care, and caregiving. It doesn't include sickness benefits. You may be eligible for to apply retroactively from March 15. So they'll look at whether you meet the 120 insurable hours as of March 15 or whenever you were eligible for one of these 3 special benefits. How to apply? The best way is through the EI online application through your My Service Canada account, and I've linked the website here. Some local community agencies also provide free assistance for EI online application. And so here we have a couple notes on EI. First, if anytime that you're applying for EI, you should apply immediately when you stop working. You do not need to wait for the record of employment from the employer, but you will need to still provide additional information, but you should start the application as soon as possible. The reason is because if you delay any application more than 4 weeks after being out of work, you may lose some of the EI benefits. Any EI application after September 27th of this year will not require the 1 week waiting period. And so that's something special for this next year. And special EI applications after March 15, as you may know, do not require the medical certificate. Okay, and then here's some more information about applying process. You will receive a 4-digit access code to go onto Service Canada that can be received by mail or email. And for EI reporting, you have to do that every 2 weeks, and that can be done online or by phone. And I have the phone number here. Okay. There's also more options and changes for your personal information, banking information available on your My Service Canada account. So you can take a look at that here. If you have questions and you aren't able to call into Service Canada because of long wait times, there is an online form called Service Request on Service Canada. And I have the website here, but you can also just Google Service Request Service Canada, and it'll be a web form that's available. And you can fill out your name, your phone number, and some information about your request. Don't include private information like your social insurance number. They don't need that yet. And then someone will give you a call back, usually within a couple business days. This is a section that is talking about what happens if you were receiving EI regular benefits, but you start working because you have some work during the week. You can work while on EI, but there will be some income deducted. Generally, it's for every $1 of income that you receive, up to 50 cents will be deducted up to 90% of the income. So for example, if you're receiving EI regular benefit, $475 a week, and so this amount is before COVID. Now during COVID, you can receive $500. So if you're receiving $475 a week and you earn some income, $150 that week, EI will deduct half of that amount, which is $75 from EI. So that means you will only get $400 EI that week, but you keep the $150 salary. And so your total salary for that week would be $550. And lastly, a reminder that EI benefits are taxable and they are deducted directly from the EI payment. So I have some scenarios that I can go through. I think I'll go through the first one. This is a worker who has seasonal employment. So they're working on a farm. In this situation, we said he's working in Barrie, and he normally works from middle of June to middle of September. And in the previous years, he was able to qualify for EI regular benefits because he worked 900 hours. However, during the pandemic, his hours were cut and he only had 200 hours of work by the time he was laid off. So he doesn't have the normal hours required for EI regular benefit. With the 200. The question is, does he qualify for EI regular benefit under the new temporary measures? So we should look that this worker has 200 insurable hours, and because it's the first time he's applying for EI regular benefit since September 27th this year, he does get the one-time credit of insurable hours. So the total that he would have would be 500 insurable hours. So since he has 500 insurable hours, that exceeds the requirement to have 420 insurable hours for EI regular benefit. This means he is eligible and he will receive at least 626 weeks of regular benefit and a minimum weekly amount of $500. Okay. And this is a reminder about EI regular benefit. Anytime that you are on EI, you want to be actively seeking work and have a record of your job search. So here are some examples of what you can do. Whether you're going through a recruitment agency or you're directly contacting the employer, you should always keep a record of the date, time, who you're talking to, what company, their contact information, and so that you have a record in case Service Canada ever contacts you. You can also keep a record of any resume, job application that you apply. And basically, while you're on EI regular benefit, you should always have a record of the job search. Okay, so moving on to Canada Recovery Benefit. And these are the 3 benefits that I'll go into detail about. These 3 benefits were announced officially on October 2nd. And these 3 benefits will replace the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or CERB. These are for workers who do not qualify for employment insurance, including workers who are casual workers, independent contract workers, or self-employed, or workers who just don't have enough insurable hours. And so they may be eligible for one of these 3 benefits. The first benefit is something that you probably heard a lot about in the news and from friends, is the Canada Recovery Benefit. So this short form is CRB. CRB is available from September 27th of this year to September 25 of next year. The amount would be $500 a week, but the tax will be deducted. So what you will receive is $450 a week. And it's available for a maximum of 26 weeks during this period. For this application, it's different from the CERB. It's only available every 2 weeks. So you have to apply every 2 weeks instead of the 4 weeks. And you also have to apply at the end of the 2 weeks that you want to apply for, so your benefit period. And so I will give some more example later on about what that means. Applications were open as of October 12th. And you have to apply within 60 days of the day that you're first eligible to apply. So to be eligible, you have to meet several criteria. First, you have to be not working related to COVID-19, or you have 50% of your income reduced compared to a previous year due to COVID-19. So an example is you calculate either your income in 2019 or in the past 12 months. So for example, last year in 2019, your average weekly income is $500. And 50% of that would be $250 a week. So to be eligible for CRB, you have to prove that within the past 2 weeks, you earn less than $250 a week. You also have to meet some other criteria, including you can't be receiving other benefits, including the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, the Caregiving Benefit, short-term disability, workers' compensation, EI benefit, and the Quebec parental benefit. You also have to show you're not eligible for EI benefits, because if you're eligible for EI benefits, you should be applying for EI. And then there's other requirements that you can look at in detail. You have to be in Canada, you have to be 15 years old, you have to have a valid social insurance number, but you don't necessarily have to be a citizen or permanent resident. And you still have to meet the $5,000 income in 2019, 2020, or in the past 12 months before you apply for this benefit. In addition to those, there are new requirements compared to CERB. You have to prove that you did not quit your job and that you did not reduce your hours voluntarily. You also have to be looking for work. So this requirement is similar to EI. And you also have to show that you did not refuse reasonable work. So if someone hire you or someone give you more hours, you generally have to take it unless you have a specific reason that the legislation allows for. There is also a tax consideration if for workers who are making more than $38,000 salary a year. There will be deduction of CRB from your tax that you have to pay, but you don't have to pay back any more than what you receive from CRB. So that's something you should look into and if that applies for you. So moving on is the last two benefits. It's the Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit. It's available from the same time period, September 27th this year to September 25, 2021. The application was open as of October 5th. This benefit is only available every 1 week, and so you have to reapply every week that you're eligible. The 1 week, you have to apply at the end of the week that you are eligible. So for example, if it's this Monday that you're eligible, then you have to wait till the following Monday to apply. Again, you have to apply within 60 days of the first date that you're able to apply for. And a special requirement is that this benefit is only available to one person in your household. So one person in your family living in the same house as you can receive the $500 benefit or $450, which is applied after the tax. This benefit is available up to 26 weeks, and it doesn't have to be all at the same time. So who can apply for this benefit? These are some key factors. You have to be either taking care of a child under age 12 or other family member who cannot work normally. And this is someone who can't work at least 50% of their week. And it has to be due to reasons including the following. If they're going to school, a nursery, daycare, or nursing center that's closed or not available due to COVID-19. If they have regular care service and someone else cares for them, but that service is not available due to COVID-19, or the person you're caring for has contracted COVID-19, has symptoms, or has serious risk of complication, and they are advised that they by a certain medical professional. or that person you're caring for has to self-isolate due to COVID-19. Okay, and there are some other considerations as well that are similar to CRB. You can't be receiving other benefit. You have to be in Canada. You have to have valid social insurance number. You have to have earned at least 5,000 income in 2019, 2020, or within the 12 months of applying for this benefit. And some additional requirement is that you have to be employed or self-employed the day before that you're applying for the benefit. And again, you can only one person in your family living in the same household can apply for that benefit for that week, but it doesn't have to be the same person. You can change. You also can't be receiving any other paid leave from your workplace. Okay, and the last benefit is Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit. This is available for the same time period, September 27th to September 25th of next year. It was open October 5th, and you must apply within 60 days of being eligible. This benefit is also only paid for 1 week, and you have to apply at the end of the week that you're eligible. The amount is the same, $500 a week or $450 after tax. But the difference is for the sickness benefit, you can only have up to 2 weeks of this benefit during September 27th to September 25th. And what type of worker should be applying for this benefit, or when they should be applying, is if you are not able to work more than 50% of the time for that week due to COVID-19. And you have to meet one of these following conditions. Either you have contracted COVID-19, or you're advised to self-isolate by a person, including your employer, a medical practitioner, a public health authority, or you have underlying health problem that puts you at greater risk of COVID-19, and certain people advise you to stay at home. That includes a doctor, a nurse, a government, or other public health authority. So you still have to meet the same criteria as the other two benefits. You have to be employed the day before that you're applying. And you can't be receiving other benefit, including the Canada CRB, the caregiving benefit, EI. You have to be in Canada. You have to have a valid social insurance number and not be receiving other paid leave. Okay, and to apply for these 3 new benefits, these new benefits are through Canada Revenue Agency, CRA. It can be done online through the CRA My Account or by phone at one of these 2 phone numbers. The direct bank deposit is usually available within 3 to 5 working days, or by check for 10 to 12 working days. Again, to show that you are working, you should keep record of during this time period, including your work schedule, your own record of your work hours, any pay slip that you receive, checks that you receive. By the end of the year, you can keep your T4 tax slip, any other record to show that you have been working either before or during the benefit. And there is penalty in some cases where you may need to return or repay the benefit, including if you applied but later found out you're not eligible, or if you receive a payment in error, or if you receive other benefit at the same time. You can only receive one benefit at a time. Or in some cases, if you applied knowing you were not eligible, or you were found to have refused work if someone hired you during the time period, there is a penalty. The maximum is $5,000. Okay, so I have some websites here from Canada Employment Insurance. There's a Q&A page. For Canada Recovery Benefits as well, there's a Q&A page that can give you some more information if you have a specific question. And if we have the time, I'm going to go through some different scenario for the 3 new benefits that might help you understand it a little bit more. So in the first scenario, it's related to CRB, so the benefit for workers who are out of work or who have less work during COVID-19. So in this example, the worker is working at a nail salon in Toronto that was closed in March this year. They went back to work in August 2020 when the workplace reopened. However, due to slow business, the employer had to lay off workers at the end of September 2020. So the workplace treats you as an independent contractor, and your work hours aren't, you don't pay EI premium, so you don't have insurable hours. Between October 2019 and September 2020, you do have a gross income of $25,000. Now that you're out of work, is the worker eligible for the CRB benefit? Our answer to scenario 1 is yes, she is eligible, as long as she meets other criteria, because she did lose work due to COVID-19. She did not voluntarily quit, and she's not eligible for EI. She's also earned at least $5,000 in the 12 months before applying for the benefit. In scenario 2, it's still about CRB, looking at a different aspect of it. So this worker is already receiving the CRB benefit and is working reduced hours. Their reduced hours cause them to have 50% less income compared to the average weekly income last year. However, due to changes, the worker is more worried about the health and safety standard at the bakery that they're working at, which is still open. The worker is also in their 50s and is worried about their health, although in their case, the doctor did not recommend that they need to stop working. However, the worker decided to leave the job and quit at the end of October. Is this person still eligible for CRB? And the answer to scenario 2 is no, they're no longer eligible for the benefit of CRB, starting from the time that they quit their job. So if they were receiving the benefit before, they can keep that benefit, but as soon as they quit, they're not eligible for those 2 weeks and later on. And that's because you're not eligible for CRB if you have voluntarily quit or voluntarily reduced your hours. This rule is similar to employment insurance requirements. If you are thinking about quitting your job for any reason, you should always seek legal advice from either our clinic or other legal clinics or a lawyer. Okay, and then this criteria is about the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit. This worker is in Hamilton working as a waitress, and she received a phone call from Public Health Unit that she was in close contact with someone who had contracted COVID-19 in the past 5 days. She immediately follows the instructions from the public health advisor, leaves work and goes back home. And she contacts her employer right away that she's at home and needs to self-isolate for 14 days. And the start of that is November 9th. This is the first time she is told to self-isolate. Can she apply for the sickness benefit? The answer to scenario 3 is yes. She is eligible for sickness benefit under the Canada Recovery benefits, as long as she meets the other criteria, because she is currently working and she was instructed by public health to self-isolate. So for her case, her first benefit period is November 9th to the 15th. And she applies at the end of that period around November 16th. And she must apply within 60 days of November 16th. Once she receives the first week of benefits, she will need to reapply again at the end of the second week on November 23rd. And this last scenario is about the caregiving benefit, and this might answer some questions for some people. So in this case, the worker and her husband decide not to let their children who are age 8 and 10 to return to in-person class at school. And so the children were taking online class in September. This children's school is continued to be open during this time, and the worker is working part-time from home. Are they eligible for the Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit? The answer to scenario 4 is unfortunately no, not eligible for the Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit, because the children are attending virtual classes and their physical school is still open. To be eligible for the Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit, a child under 12 years old must not be able to attend school because their physical school is closed due to COVID-19. Okay, and so that's the end of the main part of the presentation. If you have questions, we can open the floor.
Thank you, Victoria. So there is a couple of questions that put in the chat. And
Okay, great.
so if people didn't quit their job but are on a leave from work, and they keep extending it with doctor's note, because they have certain condition and they make them vulnerable, would they be eligible for any of the other things, or they have to go on
That's
EI?
a good question. I think we would need a little bit more facts for that situation. I don't really want to, if the person wants to give me some more facts, we can take a look. Obviously, each situation, we do prefer knowing more of the background, what type of leave they're on. But as I've said in some of the slides, you can't be receiving a paid leave from the employer at the same time as this benefit. So we'll need to take a look at what type of leave it is. And,
Yeah, so it's not a paid leave, right? It's just like they allow them to basically not work but keep their job but not paying them. So they've been accessing CERB and other things before, but the CERB is finished, and so then they still didn't want to return to work, especially now we're into the second wave. So I guess so people are a little bit confused about whether they have to go on EI or whether they can apply for the new ones. Or...
Yeah, for EI or this new CRB, which is similar to EI, you still have to show that you're able to work and willing to work, and that you're looking for work. So if they're choosing not to go to work, it will depend on what their health condition is, what the doctor's note says. They may be eligible for the sickness benefit, but for EI or CRB, they do have to show that they're able to work and available to work. So that's a tough question.
So does the benefit limits to people who are PR or citizen, or if they are on a work visa and they've been paying tax and stuff, would they be eligible to file for some of these benefits?
That's a great question. So under the rules, it's similar to CERB. As long as you have a valid social insurance number, you are eligible to apply for EI or CRB, whichever one that you're eligible for.
Okay. So another scenario that I've been asked about was that, like, if you have, if you're older, like if you are 69 years old and your workplace, you're able to work, but your workplace feels that you're too vulnerable and didn't want you to work, what kind of options does the person have? Like if they, so if they like, do they need to use up their sick leave first, or do they need to access Canada pension or anything?
So this is someone who's maybe was already working during March and received CERB possibly.
So they actually haven't received anything. So at first, because of their age, they were told to stay home, and then it kept getting extended. So I think the person has started to access CRB eventually. Yeah.
It would depend on the facts a little bit more, but basically, if the employer's just not recalling them, like not telling them to go back to work, and it's more of the employer's decision than it is the worker's decision, as long as the worker is saying every once in a while, hey, employer, supervisor, I'm able to go back to work. Can I go back to work? And if the answer is always no, then they can take a look at if they're eligible for EI or for CRB.
But isn't that the public health or government's advisory that like if you are over a certain age and you work in a setting that might expose you to a lot of public, then you are not supposed to go to work?
So that would only
Like if they are healthcare workers, for example, right?
I think it would depend, because they still have to show that like the EI and the CRB are similar in that they still have to show the worker is able to work either somewhere else or they want to work. If it's because of health reason, they may be eligible for the sickness benefit. The sickness benefit for the Canada Recovery is only available for 2 weeks, so it's not a long time. So after that, they will have to take a look and show that they are able to work or want to work or are looking for other work if they can't do their previous job. Yeah.
It would be quite unlikely in a person in such situation would be able to look for another job, right? If they're kind of like past the official retirement age and stuff. But yes, it's very complicated, I realized. Yeah. So we have another question from the chat from our participant. It says, if you are a self-employed person, but your company that usually employ you is closed, would you be eligible for CRB?
As long as, so self-employed persons can be eligible for CRB, and that is because I'm assuming the self-employed person isn't normally paying for EI premium, and that's okay. The CRB is available for self-employed persons. They just have to give some more information about were they only working at the one company that's closed? Do they have other clients? If they're completely out of work, they still have to show they're looking for new clients or other things. But in the meantime, they may be eligible for CRB as long as they're out of work or they have less than 50% income reduction compared to the previous year. Those are some good
Thank
questions.
you. Thank you so much. Is there other questions that other people would like to raise at this point? Great. So I think this is very detailed. Of course, like there is a lot of nuanced information that you need to have more details and specifics, right? So if people have more questions, how do they access your clinic, or what kind of information would be helpful if people bring with them when they try to access your service or advice?
They should definitely contact our phone number, which I'm sure we can provide somewhere. I had it in one of my slides. It's 416-971-9674. We're available Monday to Friday by phone. Oh, perfect, Ariel. She posted in the chat. But definitely call us. We normally only serve clients who don't speak English though. So if you do speak English, we may be able to refer you to your local community legal clinic. Or if you speak one of our languages, we're happy to talk to you.
So if people access like Service Ontario and then get into a lot of barriers and stuff, do they have like any rights to ask them to provide services in their languages?
I wish they could. And I guess I would correct, it's Service Canada, I guess, for
Yeah.
employment insurance, or Canada Revenue Agency. we haven't had great luck with getting interpretation, even if we're on the phone and we're saying we're a legal clinic and looking to interpret for a client, there is some loopholes that we have to jump through, or consent forms. So sometimes it's not easy, but that's definitely something we should push Service Canada and government to have more accessible services in languages that our community speaks.
Great. Yeah, so another question is the services at the legal clinic free, and what are the criteria for you to accept people as clients?
So our intake calls is when you first call us, we generally try to call back within 1 day to 2 business days. That service is free, and we'll take a look at your question, see if it's an area of law that we practice. If it's about EI or CRB, other some employment issues, we do practice those areas. So we will let you know whether we can just give you some advice on the phone, and that's free, or if it's a situation that might need some more help, we'll definitely take a look. And so for eligibility criteria, our criteria is generally similar to Legal Aid Ontario. We do only serve low-income clients. So if you are higher income, we will let you know different types of referral sources. And some places, such as Law Society of Ontario, has 30-minute free consultation with an expert lawyer, or JusticeNet is a great organization in Ontario that provides provides legal services based on your income. That could be for some middle income clients.
So what level is considered to be low income, like for individual or a family to be eligible?
Yeah, I think I would need to check. I can't recall, but it does depend if you're single or if you have children or a spouse.
Great. So thank you very much for all your information and assistance. So just wondering if we have a couple minutes left, would anyone else have any other questions or comments from our participants? Okay, so if not, we're actually in good time to promote our upcoming workshops, and then before we segue into the Mandarin section. So Keith, would you show the next slide? So again, as we mentioned earlier, this is the beginning of our Resiliency Dialogue Workshop series. So we have planned a number of weekly sessions in the coming weeks. So in the next 3 weeks, we would be having different workshops and panels discussing about strategies and responses to deal with racism and discrimination and service access barriers in different settings. So next week, we would have a Mandarin session that will focus on addressing barriers and discrimination faced by newcomers in getting services. So we have special guest Amy Goh from the CCNC for Social Justice, Jaden Pang from Butterfly, and Yan Yun Chan, who's a professor from the University of Ottawa, who specializes in immigration law. So, so that should make for a very exciting discussion. On November 19th, 2 weeks from now, we would have a panel from Chinese Canadian National Council Toronto chapter with their board member Kenneth Lin and staff member Kelvin To, who will share with you some of the information and case studies that they've got from their anti-racism reporting tool that has been available for community members to report experiences with racism since earlier in the pandemic. And they will take you through different cases, especially focusing on scenarios of racism in public spaces. And then it would engage us in how discussing and exploring different strategies to deal with them. On November 26th, we would welcome back one of our speakers tonight, Ariel, who will help us understand more about the Ontario Human Rights Code and our rights and protection under that code and how we can access that if we encountered discrimination and racism. So I hope you would tune in to our future sessions and promote that to your friends and community members. Thank you very much and good night.